A submarine bursting through the Arctic ice is a powerful image, but it's not an easy one to pull off. The Arctic environment is very unique and presents numerous challenges, Commander Tommy Crosby told Popular Mechanics. Our focus is to ensure we conduct every surfacing safely and effectively. The Arctic is a convenient hiding spot, since sea ice provides submarines with cover, making them almost impossible to detect from the air. However, that same sea ice makes communicating or launching missiles impossible, which means sometimes subs must crack through the ice with several thousand tons of steel. The U.S. Navy practiced these sub-zero maneuvers the past few weeks at the I-6 2018, a biennial exercise in the Arctic. The British submarine HMS Trident joined forces with America's Seaworth-class USS Connecticut and Los Angeles-class USS Hartford in a dress rehearsal for competing in this thawing theater of war. Breaking through thick Arctic cover is so hard on a vessel that a submarine commander's first task may be to avoid punching through ice altogether. A sub that needs to surface can try to find open water with the help of a tool provided by the National Ice Center. It's called the fractures, leads, and polynyas, flap, analysis, and this tool predicts where open water can be found in frigid areas. A simple fracture means any type of crack found in the ice. A lead is one big enough to accommodate a submarine. These are usually created by divergent ocean current flows or winds pushing the ice sheet apart. A polynya, a term borrowed from Russian, means a spot of open water that's surrounded by ice but doesn't freeze over. This phenomenon occurs because of an upwelling of warm water or a melting effect caused by coastline. Any of these can provide favorable conditions for any surfacing sub. The flap analysis uses satellite imagery and predictive software to forecast several days ahead of time where there will be open water. A sub gets this report before it disappears under the ice, out of radio communication range, to get the details of the open water it is likely to encounter during the mission. But if no open water or fractures can be found, a submarine crew moves on to Plan B. Typical submarines can break through about 3 feet of ice. Vessels that have been specifically strengthened can go through about 9 feet. Even so, one careless move could damage a $1 billion sub and put the lives of 100-plus crew members at risk. So choosing the right spot is key. U.S. Navy submarines use systems such as side-scan sonar, conductivity, temperature and pressure detectors, and a submarine remote video system to help select the best location for a submarine to surface through ice, Crosby tells Popular Mechanics. That last tool is the one that provides the final check before a submarine attempts a breakthrough. This video system is a low-light camera that monitors the ice from underneath. Ice may look smooth on the surface, but it's packed with ridges and keels extending down as much as 60 feet that can pose a danger to any surfacing sub. Once a sub's arsenal of detection equipment has found a favorable breaching point, the crew preps for its Arctic uppercut. Busting through Arctic ice is a keep your hands and arms inside the vehicle kind of maneuver. Before surfacing, a sub retracts all periscopes and masts. Sailors rotate vertically the diving planes, the wings responsible for a sub's pitch, to avoid damage. If the ice isn't too thick, then the sub can surface pretty quickly, as seen in this video from the crew's perspective aboard the USS Hartford. It rises from 70 feet down in about 10 seconds, impacts the ice, and breaks through almost immediately. When meeting thicker ice, the submarine rises slowly from under the surface until the sail is in contact with the ice. Compressed air pushes water out of ballast tanks to increase the sub's buoyancy until the upward force cracks the ice. This process, called static loading, is carried out at just a few inches per minute, but the sub then rises rapidly once it has broken through. This surface, when you hit the ice, you feel a little jolt, like being in a car that hits something, says Adam Glover, a technician and official photographer who was on the USS Hartford during I-6 2016. As you come up, you hear the crack of the ice running down the center of the boat. Icebergs can also be a hazard in shallow water where a sub cannot get under them. In 1988, Soviet sub K-475 became wedged under an iceberg and sustained significant damage. While the experience below water might be a strange sensation, the world that awaits above water is one of the most remote and alien landscapes on the planet. After crews use chainsaws to hack away loose blocks of ice, submariners can leave the narrow confines of their underwater world for the vastly different and utterly empty place above. One time we surfaced where there was an ice feature. Two big sheets of ice had smashed together and fused into a block, says Glover. Every other time it was completely flat all the way to the horizon. These featureless, icy landscapes can also be eerily quiet. It's dead silent, says Glover. You might think it's quiet in the woods, but there you always have wind in the trees, and other natural sounds. Here, there's nothing. Just complete silence. On the surface, a guard is posted with a 12-gauge shotgun to watch out for polar bears. In 2003, the rudder of the USS Connecticut was chewed by a polar bear while it was surfaced. Glover says polar bear sentries are advised to go for a body shot rather than headshot due to the thickness of a bear's skull, but in Glover's 6 surfacings, he's never encountered one. We didn't see any wildlife at all. No polar bears, no seals, no birds. It was absolutely barren, Glover says. A submarine will break through Arctic ice for a variety of reasons. During I-6 2018, one goal is to establish a base camp Skate for scientific research. Such studies will become increasingly important as the ice thins and the Arctic region becomes more economically and militarily important. Historic data on ice thickness, originally gathered by Navy submarines to help find spots for surfacing through the ice, has proven a valuable resource for climate change researchers. Submarines provide one of the few ways of getting right to the North Pole and carrying out detailed studies. There may be less ice in the future, but operations beneath it may become more frequent. I-6 only takes place every 2 years, and operations under the floating ice remain especially hazardous. Sadly, 2 British sailors died in the Arctic during an exercise in 2007. But these operations produce a vast amount of scientific data while helping maintain preparedness. For scientists and the military, it's a win-win. When you're under the ice, you always have that feeling, you know what could happen if anything goes wrong, says Glover. But you're with the most professional guys in the world, and for us it's just another day at the office.